I'm Gary Bembridge. This is another of my cruising tips for travelers. I want to take a look at what Princess Cruises does differently to other cruise lines, and also a couple of things they do basically the same as other cruise lines. Princess Cruises has been sailing for over 55 years, so extremely well established. It's part of the Carnival Corporation group of cruise lines. Princess Cruises operate in the premium sector, so they compete with cruise lines like Holland America, Celebrity, Cunard, probably P&O Cruises out of the UK and Australia. So those kinds of cruise lines which tend to have mid-sized to largish cruise ships. So what does Princess Cruises do that's very different to those other premium cruise lines? One of the big standouts that Princess does differently to other cruise lines is just the number of itineraries and how wide it cruises. Part of that's because it has a bigger fleet than the other cruise lines. At the time of recording, Princess Cruises is actually the 5th largest cruise line of all cruising in the world. So you have Carnival, followed by Royal Caribbean, followed by Norwegian, followed by MSC Cruises, and then Princess Cruises. So it's a really big cruise line. It has a bigger fleet than the other premium cruise lines. At the time of recording, it has 19 ships either in service or being built. So the most recent is Enchanted Princess, and to come is Discovery Princess. They range in size from the small ships like Pacific Princess, which carries around 670 passengers, right up to the bigger ships and the more recent ships like, for example, Sky Princess and Enchanted Princess, which carries 3,660 passengers. They go to more destinations than the other premium cruise lines. So they go, certainly in their publicity, they talk about going to 380 destinations across 7 different continents. So without a shadow of a doubt, one of the things they do differently is just the breadth of places they go to and their size. The second thing they do differently, which is kind of linked to the first one, but is so important that I've pulled it out, and that's Alaska. Princess Cruises has been sailing to Alaska for over 50 years. They are the biggest player in the Alaska region, and it's very interesting because they don't just own their cruise ships which sail there. So they have often in the season up to 8 ships operating in a normal Alaska season. But in addition to that, they also own some land-based things. So for example, they own 5 lodges, they own a fleet of motor coaches, they even own a railway, a domed railway carriages which can take you from the ships out into the sort of the wilds of Alaska. So they are a really big player in the Alaska region. Holland America is also a key player in the region, but Princess is the biggest operator and has those comprehensive Alaska programs. The third thing that Princess does, which is very different to the other cruise lines, is the Ocean Medallion. They were the first cruise ships to introduce this new technology. So these are small little devices. They're about the size of a coin. You can either wear them on your wrist, you can wear them as a medallion, you can have them in your pocket, whatever. There's different ways of wearing them. And this is really designed to transform the whole cruising experience. Linked to that medallion is also what they claim is the fastest and best Wi-Fi at sea, which is called Medallion Net. And certainly having been on the cruise ships in Princess that have introduced the Medallion Net, it's phenomenally good Wi-Fi. It definitely is really, really cutting edge. What is the Ocean Medallion all about? It's really designed to streamline, simplify, and improve service. So it does a couple of things. First of all, what you do before you go on a cruise is you upload the app and all the data. So it gets you basically on the ship much faster. So the check-in process is much faster with the Medallion. Secondly, it acts as a contactless way of opening your cabin door. So as you walk towards the door, it recognizes you and it opens the door. So it's kind of a touchless, contactless way of opening. It also enables you to order things where you're based. So you might be at a bar, you can order a drink, you could be at the pool and you could order sunscreen, for example. You could be watching a movie under the stars and order some hot chocolate. So it basically enables location-based ordering. It's also designed to track lots of information about you. So it enables the crew to get to know you and give you a much more personalized experience. So for example, I've found when I've been on cruises with the Medallion, is it also through the Medallion will let the crew know your name, your preferences. So it might know, for example, it'll let them know over time, it'll learn that you like decaf coffee with skimmed milk or whatever. So it gets to know your preferences and helps them build up a profile of you to give you better service. Also importantly, what it does for the cruise line is it also enables them to track flow of people where people are, so they can basically improve the whole flow and the way services are delivered and set up. So for example, when shows come out, they know the flow of people, where people are, and they can basically ramp up service. There's a few other little bits and pieces you can do with it as well. There's various games you can play. You can also, if everyone's enabled it, you can help track where people are on board the ship. It can also help direct you to places around the ship. So lots and lots of kind of location-based services. So that's something that's very different. At this point in time, it's the only real cruise line that's really using that technology. So it's not across all of the ships. They're basically rolling it out to all of their fleet. The next thing that I think Princess do differently is the whole approach to multi-generational and probably you could argue family travel. All the cruise lines as their core in the premium category have a similar audience. So they tend to be 50s, 60s, 70s, tend to be a lot of couples traveling. But what Princess do though is they're probably embracing multi-generational and family travel much more. I would say Princess Cruises are probably the best of all of the premium cruise lines to go if you are going on multi-generational travel. So you have the grandparents, the parents, the kids, because they are really, if you're looking for a traditional, more classic kind of experience, they are probably the best structured for it. So you'll find, certainly during the warm periods in the Caribbean, the holiday periods in the Mediterranean, you'll find lots of multi-generational, even family travel. So they have a pretty big and expansive kids program. They have 3 different kids clubs for, ages ranging from 3 or so up to sort of late teens. So definitely they have programs designed to really cater for that multi-generational traveler and families. So certainly it's probably of all of the premium lines, one of the best also, I would say, for families. It is still though a traditional kind of premium experience. It's not the whole resort experience. So from that degree, it's not catering for families, but definitely the overall programs they do are definitely catering much, much more for that. The other thing that they do differently is excursions. Now, the bulk of excursions are very similar to you'll find on the other premium lines, but they do have quite an interesting partnership, which is throwing up and generating some different excursions. And that's a partnership they have with the Discovery Channel and Animal Planet Channel. And what they've done is create a whole lot of excursions with and through that partnership. So for example, they have excursions which are Discovery exclusive, Animal Planet exclusive, Discovery recommended, Animal Planet recommended, and importantly, linking back to that multi-generational thing, they also have Discovery family excursions, which they run on and at times of year when more families like to be on board. So a real big twist on the excursions linked to that partnership with those 2 big TV channels. So those are some of the things that I think that Princess do quite differently. Let's talk about some of the things that are similar or the same. Well, first of all, the fares are pretty similar, both in terms of the fare level to the other premium lines, but also what's included. So the normal exclusions that you'll find, as you'll find on the other lines, are gratuities are not included in the fare, Wi-Fi is not included in the fare, excursions are not included in the fare, specialty dining is not included in the fare. And also if you go to their special, quiet, sanctuary area, that's also not included within the fare, and that's consistent across the other premium lines. All the usual inclusions, entertainment, food, accommodation, activities are all included as with the other lines. Secondly, once you're on board, it's, as I mentioned and alluded to earlier, it's still very much a classic traditional experience on board. You don't have all the resort attractions. You'll find the daily programs are pretty similar. You're going to have a mixture of production shows, guest lecturers, guest entertainers, quizzes, cooking demonstrations, mixology classes, dance classes, all the stuff that you're going to find on the other premium cruise lines. Pretty traditional experience and very consistent. You'll also find the dress code is pretty consistent to those other lines as well, where they have casual nights or more informal nights, and you have the more formal gala nights. But again, it's not a very stuffy, strict dress code. You'll also find on board there's a lot of choice of dining. So sitting on the big ships, you've got up to 12 different choices of dining options, which is a mixture of stuff that's included and specialty dining. So like some of the other premium lines, they do quite a lot when it comes to specialty dining. So what's included is you've got your main dining room with fixed or anytime dining. You've got all your informal dining options like the buffet, which is called World Fresh Marketplace. You've got Salty Dog Grill, which is kind of burgers, more informal dining. You've got Slice Pizzeria by the pool. You've got the 24-hour International Cafe in the Piazza, where you can get light snacks and coffees. When it comes to specialty restaurants, they differ a little bit based on the ship, but some of the brands that they have, or some of the names that they've created, which are all Princess specific, they have things like Sabatini's, Italian, they have Crown Grill, which is their steakhouse, Steamer's Seafood on some of the ships, Planks Barbecue is on some of the ships, and then Vines, which is across many of the ships, which is a sort of wine bar and like snacking kind of venue. Princess Cruises is a great cruise line. It is certainly the biggest of all of those premium cruise lines out there selling. There's a whole bunch of things they do differently, a whole bunch of things they do the same, but certainly there's a whole lot of things that make Princess interesting because they do very different to the other premium lines. I have loads more videos packed full of cruising tips and advice, so why don't you watch another one of those right now.